Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You wake up and immediately know what to do. Not because someone's watching, not because you're afraid, but because your actions and your nature have finally aligned. No resistance, no dread. That person isn't more disciplined than you. They just stop believing a lie you're still carrying. The lie that focus is about force. In ancient warfare, the greatest victories came from positioning, not pushing. I'm going to reposition you. And when you see clearly where you've been standing, everything changes. You've been sold the wrong war. Every productivity video tells you to overcome yourself, to wake earlier, push harder, ignore your feelings, and brute force your way through resistance. But that advice is why you're exhausted. It's why you collapse at night, feeling ashamed, despite being busy all day. Here's the truth they won't tell you. Laziness is your mind protecting you from a misaligned strategy. You're not broken. You're trying to climb a mountain with a map for the ocean. This video doesn't offer another willpower technique. It offers a complete reframe. I'm going to show you how to stop fighting yourself and start reading yourself. How to recognize when you're on the wrong terrain. How to position your energy where you actually have advantage. And how to move through your day the way water moves through stone. Effortlessly, but irresistibly. The shift is this: from I need more discipline to I need better intelligence. After this, you'll never see your resistance the same way again. Let me tell you about a general I once knew. This man never lost a battle in his entire career. Not one. And here's what made him legendary. He only fought 3 times in 40 years. 3 times. Everyone around him called him a coward. Other generals mocked him at banquets. They said he was afraid of blood, afraid of glory, afraid of proving himself. But those other generals? Most of them died young. Their armies were decimated. Their legacies were forgotten. And this man, the one they called a coward, he lived to be old. He died peacefully. And every student of warfare still studies his 3 battles today. Do you want to know his secret? It wasn't complicated. He spent decades studying terrain. He studied weather patterns. He studied supply lines and trade routes and the morale of enemy soldiers. He would send scouts to watch a rival army for months, sometimes years. He learned their rhythms, their weaknesses, their fears. He learned when they were strong and when they were vulnerable. And most importantly, he learned when not to move. He learned that doing nothing is sometimes the most powerful action you can take. When he finally did move, when he finally committed his forces to battle, victory wasn't just likely, it was inevitable. Enemy armies would see his banners on the horizon and surrender before a single arrow was fired, because they knew. They knew he had already won before he took his first step. He had arranged everything so perfectly that fighting was just a formality. The real battle had already happened in his mind, in his preparation, in his patience. Now, I'm telling you this story because you need to understand something about yourself. You think focus means constant action. You think productivity means doing something every single moment of every single day. You've been taught that if you're not moving, you're failing. If you're not producing, you're lazy. But that general taught me something different. He taught me that real power is knowing when not to move. Real focus is knowing when to wait. Real strength is having the courage to do nothing when nothing is the right move. Your laziness, the thing you hate about yourself, the thing that makes you feel guilty and ashamed, might actually be wisdom your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. That project you keep avoiding, maybe it's the wrong project. Maybe some part of you, some deep intelligence inside you, knows it's not aligned with where you need to go. That goal you can't seem to reach, no matter how hard you try. Maybe it's the wrong mountain. Maybe you're exhausting yourself, climbing towards something that was never meant for you in the first place. Let me tell you another story. There's a place where bamboo grows. A farmer plants bamboo seeds in the ground. He waters them every single day. He tends the soil. He protects the area from animals. And for 5 years, nothing happens. The ground stays completely bare. No sprouts, no shoots, nothing. Visitors come by, and they see this farmer watering empty dirt, and they mock him. They say, "You're wasting your time. Nothing's growing. You're a fool. Give up. Plant something else." But the farmer keeps watering. He keeps tending. He trusts the process, even though he can't see any results. Then, in the 6th year, something miraculous happens. The bamboo shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. 90 feet. In 6 weeks. It grows so fast, you can almost see it moving if you watch carefully. And everyone who mocked the farmer suddenly says, "Wow, what a miracle. How did that happen so fast?" But it didn't happen fast. It took 6 years. 5 of those years were invisible. Underground, beneath the surface where no one could see, roots were spreading. Massive roots. Silent roots. Relentless roots. They were building a foundation so strong, so deep, so extensive, that when it was finally time to grow upward, nothing could stop it. Your so-called laziness might be root building. You might be in the underground years right now. In culture, society, social media, they worship the shoot. They worship the visible explosion. They want to see you growing upward every single day. They want evidence. They want proof. They want you to perform. But without roots, it all collapses. A plant that shoots up without roots falls over in the first wind. A life built on constant visible productivity without any internal foundation burns out. I've seen it happen thousands of times. I'm going to teach you to recognize whether you're in root season or shoot season. Because most people are exhausted. Most people feel like failures. Not because they're lazy, but because they're trying to shoot up when they're supposed to be growing roots. They're trying to harvest when they should be planting. They're trying to produce when they should be learning. And that misalignment, that fundamental confusion about what season you're in, that's what's killing you. Not laziness, misalignment. So if laziness is actually intelligence, if resistance is actually information, what is it trying to tell you? Let's decode the message. Let's figure out what your body and mind have been screaming at you while you've been too busy calling yourself lazy to actually listen. In warfare, victory belongs to whoever controls the terrain. This is fundamental. This is the first thing I teach any commander. You can have the best soldiers in the world, the sharpest weapons, the most brilliant tactics, but if you're fighting on the wrong terrain, you will lose. If your cavalry is stuck in a swamp, it doesn't matter how well trained your horses are. If your archers are standing in fog, it doesn't matter how accurate their aim is. Terrain determines everything. The same is true in life. Focus belongs to whoever understands their internal terrain. And here's what you need to know. You have 3 terrains. I call them peak, valley, and fog. At any given moment, you're in one of these 3 states. Peak is when your energy is high. You feel clear. You feel capable. This is flow state territory. This is when you can do your hardest work, and it feels almost easy. Valley is rest, recovery, integration. This is when you're processing, healing, rebuilding. You're tired, but it's a good tired, a necessary tired. And fog is confusion, misalignment. You're not sure what you want or where you're going. You feel stuck, uncertain, lost. Now here's the problem. Most productivity advice, most focus techniques, most discipline strategies, they all assume you're always in peak terrain. They give you peak strategies and tell you to apply them every single day. Wake up at 5 in the morning, cold shower, meditation, deep work for 4 hours. Hit the gym, optimize every moment. And if you can't do that, you're lazy, you're weak, you're failing. But you're not always in peak terrain. You cycle. Every human being cycles. You move through these terrains naturally, sometimes multiple times in a single day. The lazy days. The days you can't get anything done. The days you hate yourself. Those are usually fog or valley days where you're trying to apply peak strategies. And that's like ordering cavalry to charge through a swamp. It's not lazy. It's impossible. You're using the wrong approach for the terrain you're actually standing on. And then you blame yourself for failing at something that was never going to work in the first place. When you face a task and feel crushing resistance, your instinct is to push through. Discipline, willpower, force yourself. But I train soldiers to read resistance like a scout reads tracks in the forest. Heavy resistance means something. It's not random. It's not a character flaw. It's tactical information. Heavy resistance means wrong timing, wrong approach, or wrong goal. One of those three things is off. Maybe all three. The question you should be asking isn't, how do I overcome this resistance? The question is, what is this resistance protecting me from? Maybe it's protecting you from burnout. Maybe you've been pushing too hard for too long, and your body knows you need rest, even though your mind won't admit it. Maybe it's protecting you from a path that doesn't align with who you're becoming. Maybe this project, this goal, this ambition, it made sense 6 months ago, but you've changed, you've grown, you've evolved, and now it's wrong for you. But you're so committed to the old version of yourself that you can't see it yet. Your resistance can see it. Your resistance is trying to tell you, stop, turn around. This isn't your path anymore. Or maybe it's protecting you from someone else's expectations. This is the big one. This is the one most people never see. Resistance isn't the enemy. Ignoring resistance is the enemy. When you feel that heavy, crushing weight every time you try to start a task, stop. Don't push through. Stop and ask, whose goal is this really? Who am I actually trying to please? Because I promise you, if you look closely enough, you'll find that most of the things you call laziness are actually your soul's refusal to betray itself. You're not lazy. You're loyal. Loyal to your true nature. And your true nature is rejecting a foreign invasion. Which brings me to the invisible opponent. You think you're fighting laziness, but look closer. Zoom out. You're fighting someone else's definition of productivity. A boss who measures your worth by hours logged. A parent who equated achievement with love. A social media algorithm that rewards constant output and punishes rest. You've internalized a foreign army's strategy, and now you're using it against yourself. You're at war with your own nature because someone else told you your nature was wrong. True focus comes when your actions serve your terrain, not theirs. This is why you can scroll on your phone for 3 hours, but you can't write an email for 10 minutes. It's not about willpower. The phone isn't easier than the email. They both require your attention. But scrolling serves your need for ease, for distraction, for escape. Writing the email serves someone else's expectation, an expectation you resent, an expectation that feels like pressure, like obligation, like a betrayal of what you actually want to be doing in that moment. I'm not saying scrolling is good and work is bad. I'm saying the energy flows where alignment exists. The goal isn't to hate scrolling. The goal isn't to feel guilty about every moment of rest. The goal is to find what serves you so deeply, what aligns with your nature so completely, that you move toward it naturally. Not because you have to, not because someone's watching, but because it's true, because it's yours, because it resonates with the deepest part of who you are. And here's the thing almost no one talks about. You've been taught to ignore seasons. You've been taught to be the same person every single day. Same energy, same output, same mood, same capability. But everything in nature has rhythm. Rivers flood in spring and slow to a trickle in summer. Wolves hunt ferociously for a few days and then rest for a week. Trees explode with leaves in April and go completely dormant in January. Nothing in nature maintains the same energy all year round. Nothing. Except you're supposed to. You're supposed to be just as productive on Monday as on Friday. Just as energized in winter as in summer. Just as motivated in your 20s as in your 50s. Just as focused when you're grieving as when you're in love. It's absurd. It's inhuman. And it's why you feel like you're failing all the time. Your focus isn't broken. You're not lazy. You're trying to harvest in winter. You're trying to sprint in a season meant for rest. And then you wonder why you can't keep up. When you learn to plant in spring, build in summer, harvest in fall, and rest in winter, laziness disappears. It's not that you suddenly have infinite energy. It's that you stop demanding the wrong energy at the wrong time. You stop trying to force summer productivity in the middle of your personal winter. You start working with your nature instead of against it. And that shift, that one shift, changes everything. Now you see the map. You understand terrain. You understand seasons. You understand that resistance is information, not failure. But how do you actually walk this path? How do you apply this in real life? Tomorrow morning, when you wake up and feel that familiar dread. Let's get practical. Every single morning, I want you to do what I call a terrain audit. It takes 30 seconds. Before you look at your phone, before you check your email, before you dive into your to-do list, stop. Close your eyes if you need to. Take a breath and ask yourself one question. What terrain am I in today? Am I in peak, valley, or fog? Don't overthink it. Your body knows. You'll feel it immediately. If you feel clear, energized, capable, that's peak. If you feel tired but calm, quiet, reflective, that's valley. If you feel confused, restless, uncertain, that's fog. Once you know your terrain, match your tasks to it. This is the key. Stop trying to do the same things every day regardless of your state. If you're in peak, do your hardest, most important work. The work that requires deep thinking, creativity, problem solving. The work that actually moves your life forward. Don't waste peak terrain on emails and meetings and busy work. That's like using your sharpest sword to cut bread. Save peak for what matters. If you're in valley, rest, reflect, organize, learn. This is not wasted time. This is essential time. This is when your brain processes everything you've been cramming into it during peak. This is when insights arise. This is when healing happens. In Valley, you're not supposed to produce. You're supposed to integrate. Read that book you've been meaning to read. Take a walk without your phone. Clean your space. Have a real conversation with someone you love. Journal. Think. Be. Valley work is just as important as peak work. It's just invisible. And culture doesn't value invisible work. But you need to. Because without Valley, there is no peak. You can't sprint forever. Even the fastest runner needs to walk sometimes. And if you're in fog, explore. Experiment. Ask questions. Don't commit to anything big. Don't make major decisions. Don't force yourself to be productive in the traditional sense. Fog is uncertainty, and uncertainty is not failure. It's transition. You're between one version of yourself and the next. Something in you is shifting, changing, growing, and you can't see the new shape yet. That's okay. That's normal. In fog, you're supposed to wander, try new things, expose yourself to new ideas, talk to new people, move your body in new ways. You're gathering information. You're scouting. And when the fog lifts, and it always lifts, you'll know which direction to move. Here's the practice. Every time you feel lazy, pause. Don't push through. Don't shame yourself. Pause and decode your resistance using 3 questions. Question 1. Is this the wrong task? Is what I'm trying to do actually aligned with my goals, my values, my true priorities? Or am I doing this because I think I should, because someone else wants me to, because I'm afraid of disappointing people? If it's the wrong task, resistance is appropriate. Your soul is protecting you from wasting your life on things that don't matter. Listen to it. Question 2. Is this the wrong time? Am I trying to do peak work in valley terrain? Am I demanding summer energy in the middle of winter? Is my resistance actually exhaustion, burnout, depletion? If it's the wrong time, rest, delay, wait. There's no virtue in forcing yourself to work when your body is begging for recovery. You're not weak for resting. You're intelligent. Warriors who don't rest die. It's that simple. Question 3. Am I protecting myself from something real? Am I afraid? Am I overwhelmed? Am I trying to do too much, be too much, give too much? Is this resistance my body's last line of defense against total collapse? If the answer is yes, then resistance isn't the problem. Overextension is the problem. You've been running on empty and calling it discipline. Stop. Pull back. Reevaluate. You can't pour from an empty cup. And you can't focus with a nervous system that's screaming for safety. Resistance becomes data when you ask the right questions. Data becomes strategy, and strategy becomes action that actually works because it's aligned with reality, not fantasy, not someone else's idea of what you should be, not a motivational poster. Reality, your terrain, your season. Here's another practice. I call it the one true task method. Every single day, identify one task that aligns so deeply with your current terrain and your true goals that doing it feels like relief, not force. Not the most urgent task, not the most impressive task, not the task that will make other people happy. The most true task. The one that, when you think about doing it, something in your chest relaxes. Something in your nervous system says yes. That's the signal. That's the compass. Do that task first. Before email. Before meetings. Before anything else. Protect it. Guard it. Treat it like sacred time because it is. That one task is the difference between a day spent living your life and a day spent living someone else's agenda. Everything else is negotiation. Everything else can wait. But the one true task, that's non-negotiable. That's your connection to your actual life. The life you're supposed to be living, not the life you've been told to live. And once a week, do what I call a season's inventory. Sit down with a journal or a blank document and ask yourself, what season am I in right now? Not just what terrain today, but what season this month, this quarter, this year. Am I in spring, where everything is new and I'm planting seeds and exploring possibilities? Am I in summer, where I'm building and growing and executing? Am I in fall, where I'm harvesting results and completing projects? Or am I in winter, where I need to rest and recover and reflect? If you're in winter and you're trying to harvest, stop. You can't harvest in winter. There's nothing to harvest. The fields are frozen. You're not lazy for not harvesting. You're seasonal. And if you don't rest in winter, if you don't allow yourself to go dormant and quiet and slow, you won't have the energy for spring. You won't have anything to plant. You'll just burn out. And burnout isn't a badge of honor. It's not proof that you tried hard. It's proof that you ignored your seasons until your body forced you to stop. Trust that spring is coming. It always comes. But you have to let winter be winter. You have to stop judging yourself for needing rest. Rest is not optional. It's not a reward for productivity. It's not something you earn. Rest is a biological necessity. It's how your body heals. It's how your mind processes. It's how your soul remembers who you are underneath all the doing. Without rest, you're just a machine running on fumes. And machines break. They don't evolve. They don't grow. They don't become more themselves. They just break. I want to tell you something that might sound strange. Something I learned over decades of watching armies rise and fall. Watching leaders succeed and fail. Watching human beings push themselves to the edge and sometimes over it. The most focused people I ever met, the people who accomplished impossible things, the ones who changed the world, they weren't the ones with the most discipline. They weren't the ones who worked the hardest or slept the least or sacrificed the most. They were the ones who stopped fighting themselves long enough to hear what their resistance was saying. They were the ones who learned to read their terrain. They were the ones who honored their seasons. They were the ones who understood that alignment produces more results than force ever will. They moved through the world the way water moves through stone, not by crashing and breaking, but by finding the path of least resistance and flowing through it. Effortless, inevitable, unstoppable. Not because they were special, not because they had some genetic gift you don't have, but because they learned to work with reality instead of against it. You've been taught that success requires suffering, that if it doesn't hurt, you're not trying hard enough. That ease is laziness, and struggle is virtue. But that's a lie designed to keep you exhausted, keep you distracted, keep you too tired to question whose agenda you're actually serving. The greatest achievements in history didn't come from brute force. They came from alignment, from people who found the thing they were meant to do and did it in the way they were meant to do it, in the season they were meant to do it. And it looked easy from the outside because it was easy. Not because the task was simple, but because the person was aligned. Think about the times in your life when you did your best work, not the work that impressed other people, not the work that got you praise or money or status, the work that you're actually proud of, the work that meant something to you, the work that felt true. I'm willing to bet it didn't feel like discipline. It didn't feel like you were forcing yourself. It felt like flow. It felt like you were being pulled forward by something bigger than willpower. That's alignment. That's what I'm teaching you to find again. You had it once. You had it when you were a child, and you could spend 6 hours building a fort out of couch cushions and not notice time passing. You had it when you first fell in love, and staying up all night talking didn't feel like sacrifice. You had it when you discovered that hobby, that subject, that idea that lit you up inside. You didn't need discipline then. You needed the opposite of discipline. You needed people to stop interrupting you, to stop telling you to be reasonable, to stop pulling you away from the thing that made you feel alive. That version of you isn't gone. You didn't lose discipline. You didn't become lazy. You lost the map. You started listening to voices that told you your natural interests were childish, impractical, selfish, not good enough. You started trying to care about things you don't actually care about because other people said those were the important things. And your soul rebelled. Of course it did. Your resistance, your so-called laziness, is your soul saying no. Not this. This isn't me. This isn't true. I won't betray myself no matter how much you push. And here's what most people never realize. That resistance, that refusal, that stubbornness that feels like weakness, it's actually your greatest strength. It's the part of you that knows who you are even when you've forgotten. It's the part of you that won't let you waste your life on someone else's dream. It's your internal compass, your true north. And it's been screaming at you for years while you've been calling it laziness and trying to medicate it away with caffeine and productivity apps and motivational videos. I'm not giving you another productivity app. I'm not giving you another morning routine. I'm giving you permission to stop, to listen, to ask what your resistance has been trying to tell you all along. And I'm giving you a framework to decode that message so you can finally stop fighting yourself and start moving in the direction you're actually meant to go. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You might be on the wrong path entirely. The career you're trying to build, the goal you're trying to reach, the person you're trying to become, it might not be yours. It might be a hand-me-down dream from a parent who never achieved it. It might be society's definition of success, not yours. It might be who you thought you were supposed to be 5 years ago, but you've changed, and no one told you it's okay to change. No one told you it's okay to admit you were wrong. You took a wrong turn. You need to start over. So you keep pushing toward a destination you don't even want anymore, and you call yourself lazy when you can't find the motivation to keep going. But you're not lazy. You're just honest. More honest than the people who spend their whole lives climbing a ladder only to realize at the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall. What if your laziness is the smartest thing about you? What if it's the part of you that refuses to waste your finite time and energy on things that don't matter? What if it's not a bug, but a feature? A built-in guidance system designed to keep you on track. And the only problem is you've been taught to ignore it. Let me tell you what happens when you start listening. When you start honoring your terrain, respecting your seasons, treating resistance as information instead of failure, you start moving differently through the world, not faster necessarily, not more, but more aligned. An aligned movement is effortless movement. You've felt this before. You know what I'm talking about. There are days when everything clicks, when you wake up and you know exactly what to do, and you do it, and it feels good. Not easy, but good. Not without effort, but without resistance. That's alignment. And it's not random. It's not luck. It's you being in the right terrain, in the right season, doing the right work. You can have more of those days, not by adding more discipline, but by removing everything that's out of alignment, by saying no to the wrong tasks, the wrong goals, the wrong expectations, by giving yourself permission to rest when you're in valley, to wander when you're in fog, to sprint when you're in peak, by trusting your seasons instead of fighting them, by believing that you are not a machine designed to produce at a constant rate, but a living, breathing, evolving human being who needs different things at different times. This is the method. This is what I'm teaching you. Not how to force yourself to focus, but how to remove the obstacles to natural focus. Not how to overcome laziness, but how to understand what laziness is actually pointing you toward. Not how to be more disciplined, but how to be more intelligent about where you direct your limited energy. Because you don't have infinite energy. No one does. And every moment you spend forcing yourself to do the wrong thing in the wrong way at the wrong time is a moment you're not spending on what actually matters. Your life is not infinite. Your time is not infinite. Your energy is not infinite. Every choice you make is a choice not to make 1,000 other choices. Every yes is 1,000 no's. And if you're saying yes to things that don't align with your nature, with your terrain, with your season, you're saying no to the things that do. You're saying no to yourself. And your soul knows it. Your body knows it. That's why you feel resistance. That's why you feel drained. That's why you collapse at the end of the day, even though you didn't do anything that mattered to you. You spent your whole day betraying yourself in small ways, and you're wondering why you feel empty. So stop. Stop betraying yourself. Stop calling it laziness when your body refuses to participate in its own betrayal. Start listening. Start asking questions. Start treating yourself like a brilliant, complex, seasonal, cyclical being who needs different things at different times, not a machine that's broken because it won't run at full speed every single day. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're just human. And humans have seasons. Humans have terrain. Humans have limits. And working within those limits, working with your nature instead of against it, that's not weakness. That's wisdom. This is what I learned in all my years of studying strategy, studying human nature, studying what makes people capable of extraordinary things. It's not discipline. It's not willpower. It's not force. It's alignment. It's positioning. It's understanding the terrain and moving with it instead of against it. It's waiting for the right moment instead of forcing the wrong moment. It's trusting that there's a season for everything. And right now, whatever season you're in, it's the right season. Even if it's winter, even if nothing's growing, even if you feel like you're falling behind while everyone else races ahead, you're not falling behind. You're exactly where you need to be. And if you can trust that, if you can stop judging yourself long enough to actually see where you are and what you need, everything changes. You came here thinking you needed to destroy laziness, but now you see there's nothing to destroy. There's only intelligence you've been taught to ignore. You're not lazy. You've been fighting on the wrong terrain, with the wrong map, listening to voices that don't know your seasons, and calling your body's wisdom weakness. But your body is wiser than any productivity guru. Your resistance is smarter than any morning routine. Your so-called laziness is your soul's refusal to betray itself. And that's not something to overcome. That's something to honor. Here's what changes starting tomorrow. When you feel resistance, you won't shame yourself. You won't spiral into guilt. You won't compare yourself to people who seem to have it all figured out. You'll get curious. You'll ask, what is this trying to tell me? You'll check your terrain. You'll honor your season. You'll identify your one true task and do that first. And you'll move, not with force, but with alignment. Not by pushing through, but by flowing around. Not by being more disciplined, but by being more intelligent, more honest, more yourself. The most focused people alive aren't the ones with the most discipline. They're the ones who stopped fighting themselves long enough to hear what their resistance was saying. They're the ones who learned to read the signs, to trust the seasons, to honor the terrain. They're the ones who said, I'm done betraying myself for a gold star from people who don't even know me. I'm done climbing mountains I don't want to climb just to prove I'm not lazy. I'm done judging my worth by how much I produce. I'm done. And they walked away. And they found their own path. And they moved down that path with an ease that looked like magic to everyone watching, but felt like home to them. That's what I want for you. Not more discipline. Not more force. Not another technique to squeeze more productivity out of your exhausted nervous system. I want you to come home to yourself. I want you to remember what it feels like to move towards something because you want to, not because you have to. I want you to stop judging yourself for being human, for needing rest, for having seasons, for resisting things that aren't meant for you. I want you to trust yourself again. Because you know, deep down, underneath all the noise and all the shame and all the shoulds, you know. You know what's true. You know what matters. You know what you need. You've always known. You just stopped listening because everyone else was so loud. So here's your mantra, if you need one. Something to come back to when the guilt creeps in, when you start to doubt, when you forget that you're not broken. Say this to yourself as many times as you need to. I am not broken. I am not lazy. I am listening, and I am learning to move like water, around obstacles, not through them. Effortless, inevitable, aligned. I am honoring my terrain. I am respecting my seasons. I am trusting my resistance. I am coming home to myself. And I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to change. I am allowed to say no to things that don't serve me. I am allowed to be human. That's the method. That's the teaching. That's everything I learned in a lifetime of studying how people move, how people focus, how people achieve impossible things. It's not about more. It's about alignment. It's not about harder. It's about smarter. It's not about discipline. It's about intelligence. And you have that intelligence. You've always had it. It's been speaking to you through your resistance, through your exhaustion, through your so-called laziness. You just needed someone to tell you it's okay to listen. So I'm telling you, listen. Your body knows. Your soul knows. They've been trying to guide you all along. Stop fighting. Start listening. And watch what happens when you finally stop trying to be someone you're not and start being who you actually are. If this reframe hit you, if something shifted while you were listening, if you feel something loosening in your chest, some old shame starting to dissolve, I want to hear about it. Tell me in the comments, what terrain are you in right now? What has your resistance been trying to tell you? What season are you in? And have you been trying to harvest in winter? Share your story, because I promise you, you're not alone. There are thousands of people watching this who feel the exact same way you do, who've been calling themselves lazy their whole lives, when really they've just been out of alignment. And when you share your story, you give someone else permission to see themselves clearly too. And if you want more of this, if you want strategies that work with your nature instead of against it, if you want to keep unlearning the lies you've been told about productivity and discipline and what it means to be a human being trying to live a meaningful life, subscribe, hit that button, because this is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore, so much more to unpack, so many more lies to dismantle and truths to remember. And I'll be here, sharing everything I've learned every week. Not so you can be more productive, not so you can squeeze more out of yourself, but so you can finally stop squeezing and start flowing. Stop forcing and start aligning. Stop fighting and start being. You're not lazy. You never were. You were just holding the wrong map, fighting on the wrong terrain, trying to harvest in the wrong season. Now you have the right map. Now you know your terrain. Now you understand your seasons. Now you can move the way you were always meant to move, with clarity, with purpose, with alignment. Not because someone's watching, not because you're afraid, but because it's true, because it's yours, because it finally feels like home. Go now. Check your terrain. Honor your season. Find your one true task and move, not with force, but with wisdom, not with discipline, but with alignment. You know what to do. You've always known. Now you have permission to do it. Now go.